It's time to give you guys an update. What has the KCSC been up to? There was a council meeting on September 26th. At that meeting, Fortis BC came down. Well, they did a remote presentation, which we'll show you guys some highlights from. They talked about doing something called natural or renewable natural gas,
Yeah,
RNG? Yeah,
RNG.
renewable natural gas. And what that is they take the methane off different sources where it would just go into the atmosphere and they burn it. Okay, and it's a net carbon positive thing, so it's good. We spoke in favor of that. There was an update on the climate action plan from the sustainability manager. We spoke against all the oppressive things in there. And then there was also a motion that Kamloops would join a United Nations program, which passed, and we'll get into that. So we spoke against both of those. Now, what I'm going to do is I'll play this video. It's about 4 or 5 minutes. So I'm just going to play it and skip ahead. And just so you guys can see, by the way, this is over probably like an hour, and we just cut it down just so to make it easy for you guys to watch.
The zero carbon step code just came in May, and municipalities can voluntarily adopt levels 1 to 4. Level 1.
So quickly, guys, is this really boring, or do you guys enjoy this?
Brutal. Yeah, brutal. It's good.
Okay.
That's why we were there.
How many people want to keep watching this? Is this interesting? Okay, not too many people. I'll just tell you what they said. Okay.
Short version. We're going to need both of these.
What he said, what he was trying to do is Fortis came in. They're putting in a report to the BC Utilities Commission because there's something called the BC Step Code, which is basically banning gas by 2030. And they're saying we need gas. There's a huge energy requirement that is being fulfilled by gas. It cannot be met by BC Hydro, no matter how many heat pumps we put in. And he went through all the charts and he explained that actually renewable natural gas is net negative carbon and it's good for the environment. Nancy Beppel said, yeah, but the federal government and the provincial government wanted zero emissions. And she seems like she's advocating for them, not for us, my impression. So there's 3 councillors that voted against that. It was Beppel, Bass, and Newstater, and all it was just a letter of support from Kamloops to the BC Utilities Commission to support Fortis in providing this solution, which is a carbon-friendly solution, okay? And one other thing they did talk about in there was that basically that the grid was maxed out in the wintertime, and that 100%, they actually discussed it in there, that BC Hydro has actually put out a call for power because they know that by 2030 we're going to be a net importer. Okay, that's with Site C. That's with Site C coming online. Okay, so that's the backdrop. Now, we had the sustainability manager delivered an update on the climate action plan. This video is a little bit shorter. It's like 2 minutes. We'll try, you guys. We'll see if you start falling asleep. I'll stop it. I think it's pretty interesting, personally, but
action plan that we have in Kamloops is part of a global movement to try to drive down CO2 equivalent emissions. 29% of the greenhouse gas equivalent emissions in Kamloops are from housing, and by my earlier comments that letting Fortis expand its footprint in terms of delivering natural gas to houses is counter to the community's climate action plan. And I think it's to our detriment because it may, you could argue, make housing more affordable, but we have to meet this targets.
Energy Cheatham, as we go forward, the largest inventory that's affecting in our homes is aging homes, the old timers like I have.
Mm-hmm.
But incentives to retrofit are probably far better than just going, hey, just keep building all the new ones, because the majority of the effect is from the old ones. So I'm curious, do we have any future plans on how the city might address, not just within, because we have those concerns, obviously, we're addressing in our corporation, but are we talking with our provincial partners about how we can address, as they did historically with the federal government, a rebate program? How do we do that discussion?
But they also present some really unique challenges, right? We don't and there are, and I heard someone reference a retrofit code. I know that the province is looking at a retrofit code of some kind. But that's going to take some time, and
Human rights and how this overlays into what we want to see for our city, whether that's slave labor in general, child slave labor, and whether that's cobalt or solar panels up in China area. How do we mask that over top of what we're trying to do now? And where does that play a role in this conversation?
that is an absolutely critical question that we need to ask ourselves, and we should be asking ourselves that today.
So did you guys catch the main points there? The climate action plan, this guy right here. So you probably heard the discussion on TV. They say, oh, well, an electric vehicle, it takes so many emissions to build it. You have to drive it for 8 years before it gets paid off. So that strategy that the government has adopted, they're not even accounting for that in here. They're not accounting for it at a provincial level either. They're only accounting for tailpipe emissions. Just the main points was that they don't account for embodied carbon. We've been saying that there's going to be a retrofit code coming because it's in the climate action plan. They're going to retrofit all the houses at 2% of houses a year for 25 years. And Manager Cheatham actually acknowledged when he was talking about somebody that was the KCSC, because we said to City Council, we don't want mandatory retrofits. And he says, yeah, they are looking at a retrofit code. So it's coming. So everybody who has an older house, you can look forward to a $100,000 upgrade on your house, or you won't be able to sell it.
Called a second mortgage.
Now, the other thing that happened at City Council, which is in line with what we talk about local government, is that we joined a United Nations coalition called the Canadian Coalition of Inclusive Cities. And what it does is it gets Kamloops to align to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. It's put on through UNESCO. This is their website. I'll just briefly play this here.
So Tamara Mackey, I'm working as a consultant for the city of Kamloops, and I'm here with a report on the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities, which is a national network of municipalities working on improving policies, practices against racism, discrimination, exclusion, and intolerance. In 2004, UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, recognized the important role that local governments play as policymakers and guarantors of human rights, and partnered with municipalities to create the International Coalition of Cities Against Racism, which made a commitment to improve their policies against racism, discrimination, exclusion, and intolerance. The name was changed in 2016 to the International Coalition of Inclusive and Sustainable Cities to align with the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Cities. The Canadian Commission for UNESCO calls on Canadian municipalities to join a coalition of inclusive municipalities and be part of UNESCO's International Coalition of Inclusive and Sustainable Cities. In addition to the call from the UNESCO, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities also endorses the call for a coalition of inclusive municipalities and encourages its members to join. Like housing, service development, employment, and culture to guide local authorities in developing policies and programs. And by implementing inclusion, diversity, and equity policies and programs, municipalities contribute to advancing many of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, in particular, no poverty, gender equality, decent work and economic growth, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, peace, justice, and strong institutions. To join the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities, the next step would be to have the mayor sign the coalition's declaration, which must be sent to the Canadian Council for UNESCO to advise them of your resolution to join. 2 people, 1 elected and 1 municipal staff person, along with their contact information, will also be shared, and they will act as contacts for future correspondence. Municipalities are also encouraged to report annually on their progress to residents and CC UNESCO.
If they agree, I'm on the FCM Anti-Racism and Equity Committee, which gives me a chance to connect with cities across the country in terms of best practices, and if they would add to their motion that I be designated as the member of council for this work, I would appreciate it. And I would use my position on FCM to try to build some bridges with other communities.
Yeah, so it looks like we're good. Yeah.
I'm not sure if everybody caught everything there, but all I said was UN, UNESCO, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So it's right there out in the open for everybody to see. And they're providing governance and training to the city employees of Kamloops. Okay, and Councillor Beppel is the one who initiated this report. It was done by a consultant, our equity and diversity consultant, which we're paying to meet these policies. And it's going to...
I'm working as a consultant
Oh,
for the
pardon
city.
me. It's going to give access to the United Nations directly to our employees. So it's working in the gray. Okay, that's what they're doing. And the other thing that Councillor Beppel said is she wants to be the person who's appointed to it because she's working with the FCM on the anti-racism committee. And the anti-racism committee believes that Canada is super racist, and that I guess Kamloops must be super racist because we need their help to make it not racist. So I don't think Kamloops is really that racist. That's just my opinion, personally. Yeah, you got a comment there? What?
I just wanted to make a comment.
Yeah.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, about, I think it was in the last budget that the city did, they approved, like, it was $150,000 to hire somebody full-time for an
EDI consultant Mackey.
So is this person, this consultant on top of that person?
I would have to check. I'm not sure, but I know that we're paying for this consultant, and that's her job, is just doing EDI. And by the way, this little thing, signing up for this, is going to cost us $12,000 just to join it. Okay, I think it's $1,000 a month is what I got. I could be wrong on that, but they said it's going to cost $1,000 a month. And part of joining this, here you can read, is that we're now going to have to align. We have to go back and change all of our equity diversity plans and realign them to match the United Nations. So there's a cost associated with that as well. So that's going to keep that consultant busy doing work. And we have to send reports to UNESCO now. So why should you guys care about this? And when I bring this up, the arguments are hilarious. They're like, what do you care? Are you racist? You don't like the United Nations? Like, what's the concern? What are you worried about? Well, for starters, we don't have the problem that they're trying to fix. I'm pretty sure Kamloops is a pretty decent place to live. I think, that's just what I mean. I don't think it's a super racist place. I don't think we have that problem. And if we did have that problem, I'm pretty sure we don't need the United Nations to fix it. There's no value added, so it's a waste of taxpayer money. And of course, what's an international organization going to do? How are they going to like fix the problem in the heart of a racist person from 3,000 miles away? It doesn't make any sense. The whole idea that this huge government body could fix racism is ridiculous. So another problem is Kamloops is changing our goals to meet the United Nations goals. It's not the United Nations coming here and saying, oh, Kamloops, you guys need help, let us help you. It's saying, oh, Kamloops, you're doing it wrong, do everything like we tell you to. So Kamloops is allowing UN direct access to our employees working in the gray. And there's obviously all these questions over governance, jurisdictional boundaries, who's advocating for who, and accountability to voters, because this is a very undemocratic process. It's just another layer of pseudo-government that's influencing our employees and policy in the city that nobody voted for. So we talked about last time solutions. We're not quite there yet, but the plan is for the KCSC to continue to work with the council, continue to point out these problems in hopefully a respectful and useful way, that they can see that this is a real issue, continue to educate the people of Kamloops that you are losing your democratic rights. Okay, you vote for someone, you expect they're working for you, but the more that we show you they're not working for you, then the bigger our association will grow until the point where we can get the council to listen to us and put in the guardrails we need. So that means taking out the language that deals with collective rights. And if there are collective rights, they need to be clearly defined and limited. Okay, it's not the city's job to go after that stuff. And we want guardrails with common sense language, like where practical, effective, economically feasible, and of course agreed upon by the community. We'll continue speaking to the councils and the TNRD to get a Kamloops first ideology going. And we're going to always advocate for local governance, for local problems, and remove and cancel all the foreign interference in our local government. So that's it for our members update, and I think we're going to open up the floor for questions. We got half an hour left. We'll do some questions, and then we will just walk around and meet and greet. It's an open house. Go ahead, Glenn.
Okay, anybody have any questions? So please remember, there may be more than one person who wants to ask something, so if you do, please keep it short and one follow-up. Well, don't everybody rush up here at once.
Rush up, Jim? I'll rush up.
Thank you. Is my mic on? Thank you guys for what you're doing. We're really appreciative. It's high time. We'd like to start something like this in Barrier, but we're gonna ride in your guys' shirt tails all the way down the line. My question is, and I noticed at the very beginning of the presentation, you listed the players of governance, and one of them was unions.
Yes.
And what my question is, and I guess it's a question, it's a statement. I was a union member for 45 years, and I know that I was involved in the politics of unions, and we always advocated that we were not a part of the political or church or any of the states. We were a union of people that supplied workers to work, and we didn't delve on any of the racism or political affiliations. We were on our own as a union. But what I'm trying to get at is, we just went through a demonstration or a rally or whatever you want to call it over Soji at the local courthouse, and guess who we were up against? The unions. Yes. Why are we up against the very infrastructure that way back in the 60s and 70s we were fighting tooth and nail to have better working conditions, and now we're fighting against them in the streets over something like Sochi? Who are unions now? What are unions now? They're not the same as when I started in unions 50, 60 years ago. So, and I am that old. So it's just that all I wanted to point out was, thank you guys for pointing this out, that these are the governance. This is the governance that's creating the havoc that we're seeing in front of us right now. And that's, I didn't want to ask a question, I wanted to make a statement. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. Glad to see everybody here. I'm not going to say too much. I just want to point out one thing, and I want to ask a question. How many people here knows what the percentage of CO2 is in the environment? Yes, 0.04. And if it was 0.03, guess what happens? Plants start to die. If it's 0.06, guess what happens? No, the plants grow too fast. So when they start talking about CO2 in the environment, we have to look at California that has blackouts because they can't charge your cars up. You know, it's sad because that's very discriminating against us carbon users. Thank you.
I do have a question. Can anybody clearly define to me what sustainability means? I've read so many documents, both international documents, mainly off the United Nations website, and also legal documents, textbooks, manuals, publications, everything. And I have never, ever seen an exact definition of what sustainability means. Do you have an
Yeah,
answer?
Yeah, we talked about that in the last presentation. That's a good question. So originally, if you go all the way back in history, there was 1987, there was a report came out called Our Common Future from the United Nations.
I read that one.
That's where the name came from, Sustainable Development. And then actually, I was on the phone with Bill Vanderzam the other day. He's still kicking around, believe it or not. I asked him what was sustainable development about, because they did a deal back in the 90s. They did the round table. And they went around BC asking everybody, what do you think it is? And they all came up with an idea, which is the one that I had, which is something to do with the environment, you know, to develop things in a way that's not bad for the environment. And I think the definition they came up with was to develop things in a way that we're not going to wreck resources for future generations or something along those lines. And that's the way it was supposed to be, and it kind of made sense. But now the definition has changed, obviously, and it's grown into everything. So it's undefinable now.
I read that document actually, and after reading hundreds of documents since then, I've come to the conclusion that sustainability means the creme de la creme at the top, the super rich, the 1%, or is it 2%? They want to maintain and sustain their position and their wealth and their money and their power. And that's the only definition that I think in my little head here that matches all of those documents.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. So we talked about in the last presentation too, that the word itself is it's an oxymoron. So you cannot sustain something and develop it at the same time. So if I say I'm running, what am I doing? Am I running or am I walking? I'm walking, right? So if you're sustainably developing, are you sustaining or are you developing? You're sustaining. So sustainable development is basically stopping development. That's the way that I kind of colloquially understand it.
Oh, this question is about the town hall. So is there more town halls in other communities here in British Columbia?
Yeah, there's town halls in every municipality. There's meetings at the TNRD, which we're going to start to attend. Usually, like if you go on the website for Kamloops, you can go on and they'll put the agenda up, and then several days before the agenda meeting minutes will be there, what they're going to cover, and there'll be links to any presentations or delegations.
So in other towns, you mean if I go onto their website,
Yeah.
I'm going to find that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when Nancy Bethel is talking about communities joining together, am I correct? Is that what she's saying she wants to do?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Bethel wants us to join other communities. Yes.
Yeah, correct.
Along their agenda.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to mention that there's this one guy named Michael, he has like the Mises report, Rechtenwald. He's got some YouTubes, one's the Great Reset and stuff, but he was talking about how all these sustainable ones, they're all just in it for the money because they get money. I mean, and how it's just all based on that. If they want to squish out the small little guy so that the big guys who have the money and also are willing to go along with the global plan will just do what they want. But he's got some really good stuff. It's Mises Media, but he's got some excellent things with some solutions on working together. He's not just going to lay down and, you know, this is going to happen. We can't do anything about it. So this goes along that line. We can do something about it, but we have to just push them.
That's our plan here in Kamloops.
Yes.
Associate, and when we get our numbers up high enough, then the council has to listen to us at some point, and you know, we're just gonna continue to deal with them in a respectful way.
Yeah.
Well, document our concerns and communicate that and continue to communicate it to the community. Thank you. So unless there's any more questions, I think we'll just shut her down and,
Do you want to walk over there?
yeah, you gotta walk. Yeah.
As long as you're in.
Yeah, I feel bad.
Two questions if I remember both of them. One question I had was today, and I don't know if I heard it right, but they were talking about, the BC government was talking about the new Emergency Act. And there's a new committee, and there's a couple of people from Kamloops, I believe, the First Nations to Kamloops, and I can't remember who else. But there isn't one, they're talking about forest fires, and there isn't one person that is on the ground fighting forest fires that's on it. And I heard them say something that if they were following the UN guidelines. And I wasn't sure if I heard that right, so I'm just wondering if anybody heard the same thing. And
I don't know enough about that to speak authoritatively, do you know?
I know.
So I know generally that they
My
are,
daughter is a firefighter, and she told me that BC Wildfire Service is an NGO. She's a local fireman, Chase, and
I heard that story too, so I went on the website to look, and I'm pretty sure it's part of the
they
government.
get a license, they can get a ticket, and then they give that to the local firefighters, but now they can't touch the fire. It's only the BC.
I think the question was about what the government is doing with the
What the government-
legislation, yeah.
Yeah, what the
So,
government is trying to do to come up with an emergency plan for forest fires.
so
like
just
next
really
year.
briefly, I do know like a little bit, like high level, what they're doing is they're gonna change the way it is, and the emergencies will be broken down into 4 sections. So it'll be like preparing, responding, assessing, and then cleanup or something like that. So the way I look at that is that the emergency now, because it's 4 phases and one of them is preparing, that you're gonna be in an emergency preparing, even though that nothing has happened.
Right.
And then during the cleanup phase, that's also gonna be considered an emergency. And I think that that's what some of the controversy around that was.
Well, and plus it just seems kind of ridiculous to me that on this committee, there isn't anybody from BC Well. Okay, sorry. Closer. Sorry, that there isn't anybody, it didn't sound like there was anybody from BC Wildfire Services or any of the frontline people that are fighting fires that are, and like I said, I thought I heard that they were following the UN guidelines, and what in the heck does the UN know about the the fires in BC?
Yeah, if what you're saying is true, then we would probably have to oppose that as well, because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the only other question I had is that there are a lot of neighborhood community associations.
Yes, there
Have you thought about reaching out to them?
are.
At all as
We
far as
attended
membership,
one
or-
and we've met a couple people, but there's only so many hours in the day. We all have day jobs and families and things, so as the association grows and we get more people that have capacity to do those types of things, yeah, of course, we're gonna reach out to all the other associations. I know Brock has one, Sagebrush has one, Valley View
Yeah,
has
there's
one.
like 19 of them.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Richard, and my question is, with all your research and reading through the UN handshakes that the city's doing and all the communities are doing, what's the time frame of that handshake? Is there a time frame on all of these policies that the city's putting forward? Or is it kind of like, once you're in it, you're in it?
So that's actually a really good question. I mean, because now that sustainable development actually covers everything, and you can read pretty much any plan, any document that's come out of the city in the last 10 years, it's gonna have the word sustainable in there somewhere. And now the stuff that's coming out is talking about anti-racism, that's gonna be rolled out in the school system this year. You know, it's coming from so many different angles. I don't know that there's one point, but I could tell you as an example how this happened. So Councillor Bepples on the committee with the FCM, she found out about this program, about the sustainable or inclusive cities. Then she asked the consultant to write the report. The consultant wrote the report, so this is probably a period over a couple months. And then here we are, now we joined.
But there's no,
There's no, it's 2030, it's the agenda 2030, so they want to get all this done by 2030.
and there's no going back after that then?
Well, there's no one opposing it, that's the problem. Nobody's opposing this anywhere. That's why we're here.
That's what, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hello, my name's Patrick. I just want to mention that also we should be attending the school district meetings as well. They're doing some stuff there. Oh, okay, school district 73 meetings. We got to attend those too. Everybody hear that? Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, my name's Dre. Yeah, I commend the effort that you guys are putting into this. Unfortunately, I don't share the optimism that being reasonable with these people is gonna work. So, what contingencies would you have in place to coordinate resources and to maybe encrypt communication, since privacy is pretty much dead? And I really wouldn't put it past these people to infiltrate and subvert all of your efforts.
Okay, so I have an opinion on things. You know, I'm speaking on behalf of the association. I have a personal opinion on things as well. But as an association, I don't think that that's something that we're getting into. I know that there are people who are thinking about things like that. Definitely one aspect that the association wants to deal with is privacy. Okay, so as new technology is being rolled out, we want to see what it is, and if it's dual use technology, what could it also be used for? So that's what the KCA, like, that's going to be the limit of our involvement, unless the membership wants more. But as a policy, that's where we're at right now. Personally speaking, I know there's lots of issues with you know, people sniffing stuff on phones and computers. The government can see anything they want, but I also know that they have to invest time and resources. You know, like someone in the government has to tell someone in the RCMP, and then they have to tell someone in CCAP, and then it has to go to a judge, and then it has to come down. So I'm not that worried about it personally right now in my life. I think there's more pressing issues, so I don't spend too much time worrying about it. I don't know if that really answers the question. Yeah, but I appreciate the comment though. Yeah, things are changing, and I'll also drop this in. Eventually we're going to cover technology, because there is a lot of technology installed around the city. I know a lot of people see little things up on the intersections. I've personally spoken with the city about what all that is, and we'll put it together and give it to the membership in a couple weeks. There's going to be another town hall on the 21st, and we'll try and drop it in on the town hall on the 21st. And I'm actually very confident now that I've spoken to the city about what's installed, so I'm less worried about what's here now. Very worried about what's coming in the future. And I know that it's coming. So that's, you know, I've confirmed that it's coming. But what's here now, I'm not worried about, if that helps. So I can go to sleep tonight.
And one other little thing about security is that they haven't made that overt move. We have to play by their rules. They want to be civil, we'll be civil. We'll sit down and talk.
Well, I just want to add that I've had my bank accounts frozen just for purchasing a VPN.
I don't doubt that that's been happening. Well,
Yeah.
so he said that he had his bank account frozen because he purchased the VPN.
Virtual private network.
That's
The
it.
VPN is
So
so
you
you
can
can surf the
literally-
internet privately.
You
Yeah.
can say that you're in Seattle. You could say you're in Auckland, Australia. And yes, wonder why the government wouldn't want us to do that.
Hi, first time visitor, just got a question. Thank you. Are you guys, what are you guys doing for reaching out to these other communities? Like, have you guys got other ambassadors or, you know, members that are volunteering to try, you know, promote the organization?
I'll do it.
So yeah, we need volunteers. We've got one, thank you very much. But you mean communities within Kamloops?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so that's, as the membership grows, when we meet people, we ask them like, hey, you got time to volunteer?
Yeah.
We've already got a great group of volunteers. A lot of them are kind of based in the North Shore and West Side, just the way that it worked out. Brocklehurst, I guess, it's all the North Shore to me. But yeah, so we'd be really happy to get some people lined up, say way out in Dallas, River Shore. Hey, there you go. Okay, if you got time, let's talk. If you've already signed up for a membership, yeah. So you would have got an email, it's Kamloops CSC.
I just signed up today, so.
Okay, yeah, you'll get an email, just reply back to that, and then you can contact through the website as well, just say, hey, what's your name?
Darren.
Darren?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, nice to meet you, Darren. I'll look out for your email.
Yeah, okay. One other question. Everybody here realized that last Friday, the federal government just came out with passed bill I think it's C11 or C12, the internet censorship bill. Yeah. So are you guys gonna do, what can we do to try and fight that? Because I mean, that's freedom of speech, right? Thank you.
All right, so I guess our initial goal is to focus local. And so we start with Kamloops first and we gain momentum here. I know that Jeff is traveling around to some other communities and people are liking what it is that's happening here in Kamloops. And as that grows, our voice grows, which means our power grows, which means we can start to make change.
It's gotta be bottom up. We talk about jurisdiction, just to add on to what Justin said, say that if we voted in a guy or a girl into the federal government right now, tomorrow, and they agree with everything that you agree with, and all of us here in this room, somehow we all agreed, and that's our guy or girl. They're gonna get in there and we're gonna say, hey, please help us here in Kamloops. And they're gonna turn around and say, well, I don't have any jurisdiction, that's provincial. Right? And then you get your guy in the province, and you say, hey, please help us here in Kamloops. And you say, well, your city council loves what you're doing, why would I change anything? All the UBCM loves what you're doing, why would we change anything? UBCM's telling us to go this way, you're telling us to go that way, it doesn't make any sense. So any kind of change like this has to start at the bottom. Maybe this is the first step in that. We're literally the tip of the spear. I know we have community associations, but they're dealing with local community issues and they're not dealing with larger issues like we are. So we're dealing with larger issues at the community level and hopefully it'll catch on. Should we only got 10 minutes left, so let's just shut down the open questions and we'll just do meet and greet. Yeah. And for all the guests here, I just want to say a big thank you for coming out today. Really appreciate your time. Always open for feedback. We're trying really hard to give you guys accurate information. We don't want to deal in conjecture and things like that. So if there's something that you saw that's not accurate, or maybe there's something that we're missing, let us know. And if we're wrong, we're willing to admit that too. We just want to be right, is what it is. We want the truth to be out there and we want people to see what the truth is. And please, if this interests you, our strength comes from membership, so please consider joining. You can join by paper at the back, or you can join on the website. Thank you very much.
We are the most urban spread city in British Columbia, basically. I mean, in fact, in Europe. Borrowing by governments for infrastructure. It was through the Bank of Canada, and the interest rates were between 0 and 1%. Now, our debt, national debt, is mainly due to the interest rates.
Going to ask them to change the world. Small changes. Small changes. We're going to create a big
I saw myself. I put it on.